Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm so excited to welcome Chiara Zanni to the podcast. Welcome, Chiara.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited to be chatting with you and learning more about your career. So, I wanted to actually start by asking you if you always knew you wanted to be an actor and then how that led to you eventually booking your first professional role.
Good question. I didn't know I wanted to be an actor. I got into this very young at the age of 7. It was kind of by luck. My mother entered me into this contest called Search for a Star, and it was the local, town in Vancouver. They were holding auditions, this agency. They were looking for child actors. And my mom always said, you were singing, you were dancing, you were always doing performing in the house. So she thought it would be a good idea to enter me, not knowing that I would win or even do well just because I had no background. But the audition was you had to sing, you had to dance, and then do a commercial audition. And there was many stages of the actual contest, but I ended up winning. And so one of the prizes was to get an agent. So at 7 years old, an agent, and again, we didn't really know what that meant, but my very first audition was for a cartoon called the Pokey Little Golden Book Land, and the character was Pokey Little Puppy, and I booked it. So yeah, I kind of fell into this industry serendipitously, or my angels were looking out for me. They might have thought this girl loves to sing and perform, and let's throw her into this. And after Little Golden Book Land, I just never stopped doing cartoons.
That's wonderful. That's really cool. And I know, of course, you do voiceover and on camera. So I'm curious to know if you have
Yes.
a preference.
That's a tough question. People ask me that all the time. There's so many great things about each of them. Like voice work, you can be anything, and your days are a lot shorter. So it's kinder to the body, meaning, 4-hour calls and then you go on your way. Whereas on camera, you can't be anything, but and you also work very long hours, very long hours. So it's harder on the body. But then again, there's something different about being in front of the camera. The way you act, there's, for me anyways, there's a different sort of muscle I use. And then when I'm behind the microphone, there's another different muscle that I use. So I love utilizing both of them. I can't choose, but I will say if I had one genre to stick to, it would be comedy. Like I always love doing on camera comedy or cartoon comedy. That's my jam. I'm not huge into sci-fi or horror, only because I'm a scaredy cat and I don't watch a lot of horror films. But if I could only do one kind of acting, it would always be comedic for sure.
Nice. And that's always just a wonderful thing, making people laugh too. And
Yeah,
that,
it's the
yeah,
best.
that's so
My
nice.
favorite show is things like Will and Grace, Friends, those kind of shows that no matter how many times you watch these episodes, you still laugh. And as actors, that's something I idolize because they're pretty much being goofballs each episode. It's they're not taking themselves too seriously. They're playing, hamming it up, and that's sort of what I love when I'm acting, is to not take myself too seriously.
Yeah, I think shows like that, they're also kind of comfort shows too, when then you get so familiar with the characters, like with Friends. And for me,
So true.
Seinfeld's one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, the best
Yeah.
Seinfeld. Oh my God. We're just started rewatching some of those and forgotten most episodes. And it's crazy. Like they really are acting like, I don't know what's the word. They're just acting so goofy, but it's so funny.
Hmm. It's true.
Yeah.
And like similar too with like Curb Your Enthusiasm, because Larry
Yes.
David.
Great
So
show.
yeah. It's like stuff like that to me, it's like timeless, honestly, because like that's what it is. It's taking from real life situational things that we all go through.
Yes.
And
And then
you
just
know,
kind of like heightening it with the funniness about it, like especially Seinfeld, George Costanza's parents, how they're always yelling. Like that's my parents. My parents are Italian. So everything is like screaming in the house, always screaming. So I could totally relate to George Costanza's family with the yelling.
I love oh my God, that's too funny.
Oh
Oh
my
God, that's
God.
funny. I wanted to ask you actually, so specifically in terms of with voice acting, for you, how do you go about finding the voice of a character based on just the appearance of the character and the
That's a
description?
good question. I mean, they don't give you a ton most of the time. They'll say, 10-year-old girl, free spirited, or totally quiet, introvert. You know, they'll give you sort of like attributes, but they'll, a lot of the times they won't say this is the kind of voice quality we want. Sometimes they'll be like, we want her to sound similar to this, but 90% of the time they just say, these are her attributes, now go. The thing is, as a voice actor, is you've been given this beautiful gift of a voice, but it's also something that you can only stretch so far, you know. So for me, I feel very lucky. I've been given a rasp, and so I've been able to use that my whole life. But in many auditions, they'll say like very sweet, clear voice. So when I see that, sometimes I get discouraged because I say to myself, well, that's not you. You don't have a sweet, clear voice. You have a raspy voice. But I just sort of go at every audition with, this is the kind of vocal quality I have, and whether I'm going to make her older or younger or have an accent, I'm just going to give what I truly believe I can give, and then I have to let it go, and then who it may be decides what kind of voice quality they like. But you know, obviously, if the character says she's shy and introvert, I'm not going to say every line crazy loud or, you know, sing songy or, you know, ham it up. I'm going to keep my voice a bit quieter, shyer. So things like that is what I say. You have to lean into that when you're auditioning. But for me, I can't take away what is unique about me, which is my rasp. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah. So basically kind of utilizing your own strengths with your voice.
Exactly. Like I've had a few people in my career say, get rid of your rasp. Like, we don't want it. And I've left a lot of these auditions very sad. Like, oh shit, they don't like my voice. Like, what am I going to do? And as I got older, I realized, you know, screw you. That's what makes me really beautiful is my rasp. And I don't want to get rid of it. And I can't. I just can't. Like, a lot of girls can put on rasp, but people who have a raspy voice can't get rid of rasp. It's like a blessing and a curse. So I've tried to say over the years is like, this is what is really special about me, and I'm going to play it up,
Mhm.
and then you just have to let it go. I mean, voice acting, it's funny, it's all in the ear, right? So I don't know what the clients on the day go, oh, we like Sally or we like Chiara. I have no idea what makes them choose, but I just know what I can bring, and then I have to let it go.
I get that too, because I guess honestly, in a way, you have to kind of develop a thick skin and know that, well, maybe
So
like
hard.
whatever, yeah, like not take
Yeah,
it
it's so
personally, I
hard.
guess,
And
right?
even as a woman, it's so hard to develop thick skin. Like, you know,
Yeah,
I
very
grew
true.
up in this industry and it's tough as a woman. It's tough being a young girl and then going through puberty, and then in your 20s, you know, you have to sort of make yourself really sexual and beautiful, and it's hard. Like, it's hard to have thick skin, and I've been in this industry for 34 years, 35 years, and I still get sad when I don't book something. I still
Mhm.
I don't have a thick skin, but I'm learning to, like, when I get told get rid of your rasp, you know, not to take it personal. It's not for them. And then I let it go and say, well, they're lost, you know, like that's what makes me really special.
Absolutely, yeah. So I know since you started early in the business, did you kind of learn as you went along, or did you also take acting classes as well?
Good question. Sorry about the helicopter. Um, I voice acting I learned, and that was a good and a bad thing. Like, I will admit, at 7, I didn't know what I was doing. I had a fantastic voice at the age of 7, really raspy and super high. So, you know, that was a gift. But I had to learn from other actors. So when you do a prelay animation series, it's usually whatever, to 10 actors in a room, and you read the script like a play from beginning to end. And so whoever I was in the scene with, or let's say I wasn't in a scene and I could just sit down and listen, I would, like a sponge, absorb what was going on in the room with the other actors. So I definitely learned voice acting from watching, being in the room on the recording day and seeing, oh, that's how you do it. Like, people, that's why I always say take class, take class, take class, because for instance, when you're running or you're coughing or you're laughing, there's a certain technique you do behind the mic. It's not like a traditional running sound or a coughing or a laughing sound. So I had to watch from people who had been doing it for 5, 10 years. On camera, yes, I took acting classes, and I strongly believe classes are beneficial for all, on camera or voice. But for me, I learned voice work by watching. It's a shame because people always say, "What do you do? What did you do?" And I said, at the time when I was doing this, there was no classes. There was no such thing as voice acting 101. Now, especially in Vancouver, and I'm sure in New York, there's a ton of voice acting classes. And so I get people messaging me all the time saying, I want to get into voice acting. What do I do? And I love hearing that. And my heart breaks because I can't respond to every single person. But if anybody's listening and I haven't responded to you, take class, take class, take class, because there's a different muscle you use behind the microphone than if you would on camera. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have some really fantastic voice actors who are my dear friends who say, I want to get into voice acting. Can you help me? And sometimes I'll sit with them with an audition and they're just not getting it. There's a cadence, there's a rhythm, there's a muscle that you use for voice work that you don't in on camera. So the only way you're going to learn is watching and from classes, for sure.
Well, because I know honestly, like a misconception about voice acting is that people think, oh, I do funny voices, so I could be a voice,
Yeah, that's crazy. It's
right?
not. It's not about voices.
Yeah,
No.
it's acting first, then the voice.
Yeah.
That's
It's
yeah,
not about impersonations either. People will like, here, can I show you all my impersonations? I'm like, that's great, but it's not going to get you a job because there's already one Bugs Bunny and there's already one Homer Simpson. Like, you can't use that voice to get another job. You have to develop your own characters.
definitely. And I know also though, in general with voice acting, you're mostly by yourself though, right? Like you're not really acting with other actors. So I imagine that kind of makes it more difficult too. Whereas with on camera, you're reacting to other people
Exactly.
in the scene.
On camera, it's fantastic. You're never without a partner. Voice work before COVID, you were prelay, and I'm talking prelay, not anime. Anime is when I go into a room and I watch on the screen. Like, I did a show called Hamtaro, and I watched Hamtaro in Japanese and I have to dub it in English. So anime, you're always by yourself, always. But prelay is when you do the voices first and then the animators animate to you. Prelays, you're with people. That was pre-COVID. Now after COVID, it's all by yourself. So there's another sort of thing that actors are having a hard time with, especially voice actors. They're so used to having 5 or 6 people in a room and bantering back and forth. We don't have that anymore. So whether it's you get the director to line read you in or you line read yours, I say the guy's line before me, I just say it myself and then I go into it. There's definitely a new technique involved, but on camera's great. Like, you're never by yourself unless it's, you're the only person in the scene. But yeah, pre-COVID was great. And anime is, a lot of prelay actors don't do anime for that reason. They don't like being the only person in the room and dubbing. Like, it's to each their own. I don't mind it, but it's another technique for sure.
I imagine that takes much more time because you have to match like the
It's
mouth.
very hard. It's very hard. And that's why a lot of actors stay away from anime, because a sentence in Japanese and a sentence in English saying the exact same thing don't stretch out to the exact same cadence. So whether it's, changing the line a little bit or stretching out a word, instead of saying word, just so you can fit flaps, it's time consuming. You get your 3 beeps and then you go into it. And sometimes, it'll take 10 takes. Sometimes it'll take 2 takes, but it's hard. I wouldn't say it's for everybody.
That's so funny. Yeah. And actually, I was just curious to know because I know you mentioned like when you do sounds like running, whatever, do you do kind of dialogue first and then you do all sounds, or is it kind of just throughout, like, filtered in the script?
Well, it depends on what the director wants. 9 times out of 10, you usually just run, like, you're heavy breathing and you're sprinting, or a slow jog. But if they want running in the line, yeah, you have to sort of sound natural and maybe we call it pre-life. Like, say the line is "wait for me." I'll pre-life it with "wait for me." Giving it a little bit of a beat of the running sound and then jumping into the line.
So honestly, yeah, like there is a physicality to voice acting too.
Yes.
It's all through your voice that you're conveying all
Yes.
these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never say to people, like, you shouldn't be standing behind the mic frozen like this with your arms at your side. You just shouldn't. you need to put your body into it, especially if it's a dramatic scene where I'm getting chased by monsters. I have to be, wait for me. I have to really use my hands. I mean, you can't use your hands crazily because you have to be careful of the mic and it picks up sounds. But yeah, voice actors who stand there behind the mic frozen, sitting, I'm like, you got to give it some oomph.
So I love that you brought up Hamtaro earlier. That was actually the first anime I ever watched.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
oh my
Did you
God.
watch all of them?
I watched the vast majority of them, I think, as a
Okay.
kid. I started watching when I was 11. It was like me, my cousins, my sister, and we're like, what is this? It's so cute.
It was, where it was cute.
Oh my God. It's so adorable, Hamtaro. But
What did you like about it? Just that it was a sweet show about friendship?
honestly, yes, like
Mm,
especially now more than ever, how important that is. The themes of like friendship and teamwork. I loved
totally.
like of all the hamsters too, Hamtaro was my favorite just because him is like the leader and like the hamster everyone could rely on. Like so adorable
Yeah, I
there.
know. It was a cute. I actually get asked all the time if it could come back, and I don't know why they don't bring it back because I think it would thrive now. It
It's
really would.
it was a really popular, I would say, like children's anime.
It was
And I
huge.
yeah, and I know I think there's more episodes in Japanese though, where I don't think you guys dubbed all the
Yes, it's
right?
true.
Yeah.
We need a producer to get behind it again and just say, I believe in this show. Let's do it.
It's so adorable. And honestly, also, I think it's so adorable that they have like their own hamster vocabulary. Like, it's
Yeah,
so funny. So,
it was cute. There was a lot of weird words in there. I always remember going, what? Like, heck, I remember that one. Hamha, of course, but there was a few. And there's lots of songs which I like too. It was a cute show. It was.
so
It's a
adorable.
shame. Maybe one day a producer. I mean, look how many shows they bring back. I did the original My Little Pony when I was 8.
Oh, wow. Hmm.
Look, brought it back 20 years later and did a new, revamped version. So I can't see why they wouldn't do Hamtaro. But it was a lot of work. Like that was a exercise class for me
Oh,
because I
yeah.
had so many lines and like I said, having to translate it from Japanese into English. Like I remember some days coming home from session exhausted.
Oh, wow. I can imagine. Yeah. Do you remember even your audition for it too?
No, I just
Hmm.
remember they wanted him to be a little boy, and it's funny, there was this really cute kid, I don't know whatever happened to him because again, this is so long ago, but I remember loving his voice and wanting to sound like him. So in my head, when I walked into the room for the audition, I just was like, I'm gonna sound like, I don't remember his name. Let's call him Freddie. I'm gonna sound like Freddie. And I just tried to sound like this real little boy Freddie. And of course I didn't sound exactly like him, but that's what I brought to the table. It was
And
my first anime series
oh,
too.
was it? Oh,
That was
cool.
hard. Yeah.
Mhm. So then, so that too, I guess, obviously you learned as you went along. It's like,
There
okay,
you
well,
go.
to,
I literally learned how to do anime in
hmm.
Hamtaro, which the director Carl, who's amazing, he's one of my favorite directors. He was always like, Chiara, to be thrown into a show, being the lead and learning anime, he was giving me a compliment like, wow, you're doing fantastic. Because some days I would feel so discouraged that it would take me, let's say, 8 to 10 takes to do one line. And he's like, Chiara, this is no joke anime. It's hard. And he would always encourage me by saying I was doing a good job. So that's how I learned animes through Mtaro.
That's so cool.
Oh my
Um,
god.
I know also another role you're known for, I like to switch now to on camera. You did About a Girl, which unfortunately
Yes,
ran one season.
I know. We got what's the word? We got shafted. We should have gone again. I think it was when the writer strike in LA happened and it just people were pausing on creating new stuff and it was just bad timing. I also believe we weren't on the right network. I think being on Nickelodeon, I feel like I don't know, I just felt like it could have gone again. We had so much potential.
Because I was reading about it and I was like, oh, this seems like an early version of, I don't know if you're familiar with the show New Girl.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That was it. It was a newer version of
yes,
New Girl.
like a pre
Yeah.
New Girl, because that was 07, oh,
I
yeah.
know. I was sad that that didn't go. I made some great friendships, and again, it was comedy, and I
Mhm.
never took myself too seriously on set. It was that'll be a job that I'll never forget my whole life for many reasons.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah. I am curious to know just of all of your roles thus far, if you personally have one that you yourself relate to the most.
I think I just would say there's so many things about each character that I'll take. Like there's not one that I truly felt was me to a T, but you know, like there's one little show called Stella Luna where I played Stella Luna. She's a bat, and you know, where she didn't truly felt like she belonged. And as a young girl growing up in this industry, sometimes I always felt like I didn't belong. Like, why? What am I doing? You know. And then obviously Amy and About a Girl, you know, becoming a woman and learning how to live with guys. There's stuff I can take from every character for sure. Daring Do in My Little Pony, she's like this tomboy, kick-ass pony, which is something I would love to be in real life. I tend to be a bit more shy, which is weird as an actor, but I'm a Cancer, so I like to hide in my shell, and I'm a homebody, so Daring Do is a bit more adventurous than me. But yeah, and that's what's so great about acting is you can be people that you're not really in real life, which is awesome.
I know. So then I guess it's kind of like, in a way, though, they're all from you. So they are, in a way, a part of your personality.
Totally.
Like that's maybe an exaggerated version of, oh, if I was this,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the exaggerated version. That's the great way to put it. Yeah, that's the beauty of me is that I don't know how I fell into this again. It was just pure luck. But as somebody who tends to be shy and stay at home when I'm on set, or excuse me, when I'm doing voice acting, I get to be that kind of girl that gets to come out of her shell a little bit in a safe place, you know, where I know I don't have to swing from the vine in a jungle in real life and, you know, jump through fire. I can do it acting, and it's a safe way to do it for sure.
And then is it weird for you, like watching yourself or hearing yourself, or are you kind of used to it too?
It's hard. I mean, obviously, I'm hard on myself. I think we all can be. I'm very hard on myself, you know, like, especially when I look back to the younger stuff when I was just a kid. I'll be like, oh, you could have said that line better, or that wasn't that good, which is silly to do because I was a kid growing up in this industry. But I'm trying to be nicer to myself now, my goodness, because really at the end of the day, we've got to be the nicest to ourselves. What comes from the inside is what's most important, how we truly feel about ourselves. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. So I'm learning to love my rasp, like I said, and appreciate what makes me unique for sure.
Well, also because honestly, like what you said with the rasp, that's more geared towards like a lot of women, they voice young male characters. So that
There you
works
go.
for these kinds of
I can
characters.
do a lot of boy voices, which
Mhm.
is a blessing because if I actually think back into my career, I probably haven't played more boys, but especially on camera, I don't play boys, but on voice, I would say it's been 50-50. So it's funny too, like when I auditioned for things just recently, I was read for a girl and a boy, and I wanted the girl so bad. I was like, this is it. She sang, and I love singing, so I was like, this is the role for me. I had to make up my own song. I'm like, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Well, I actually got a call back for the little boy, and I didn't get a call back for the girl, and I was like, what? So, you know, it's a great thing that I actually can do little boys.
I'm curious to know if you have any favorite people you've worked with, whether other actors or directors, producers.
My favorite, I have a lot, but the one that sticks out the most is Tom Kinney, the guy that
Oh,
plays SpongeBob.
mm,
He's a gem, and you'll probably hear that from anybody who works with him. I kind of got thrown into this series. It's called Henry Monster in LA. We did two seasons of it, and he played the dad. So I didn't really know who he was when I first showed up, and then when I found out he was SpongeBob, I was like, "Holy, you know what?" He's just so nice, so talented, so kind. You know, he's freaking SpongeBob, but he made me feel like I was super special and super worthy of being in that cast. And he just taught me to always stay humble, which I am, but stay humble, stay grateful. You know, don't ever take what we do for granted, which I don't, because we're so freaking lucky to be doing what we're doing. So I'll never forget him. I hope to work with him again. Obviously, Henry Monster, we didn't go past two seasons, but maybe there'll be something else. But he's class act, that guy.
that's wonderful. And yeah, it's so true that you guys, like with your work, that you bring joy to just millions of people of all ages.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Mhm.
Yeah, he's so funny. Every time he would get to the microphone and do a different character, I knew I was in for a real treat watching him.
Oh
for
no.
sure. He does a little bit of on camera, but he told me he doesn't love it as much as voice. It just depends, I think, on the person, what they feel most comfortable with.
Because I know, I believe he started in like sketch comedy. I think that's a
I think
true
you're
for,
right.
I think that's true honestly for a lot of voice actors, right? That they either start in maybe theater or they take like other things besides voice acting that kind of lead into
True. Yeah, a lot
it.
of theater actors do
Hmm.
voice work a lot because voice work is a bit bigger than on camera. So I'm not saying you have to be yelling and projecting, but I'm just saying it's a bigger style of acting. So theater actress is one of my best friends in the world. She started out in theater. Now she's a fantastic voice actress. So she'll always say, I'm grateful that I was a theater actress first before voice work because it helped her with her, I guess, acting ability.
And I know you kind of touched on this too, that has it been more difficult or maybe easier like doing voiceover work from home now rather than in studio?
That's a good question. I mean, honestly, I prefer being with the cast in a room because there's a there's an energy that you get when you're bantering back and forth in a scene, especially like picture two siblings, a brother and a sister, and they're arguing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's fantastic to work off another actor and get that spark. Whereas if you're let's say at home by yourself, I have to line read myself in, or I just have to pretend like I've heard the response and then jump in. So for me, I prefer being in the room with everybody. It's always more fun. Is that a word? More fun. It's always,
I
yeah,
think.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's always more fun. Um, but it's takes less time if you're by yourself and you can get it done quicker. So some actors might prefer that, but I don't know. I miss seeing friends, joking, and then let's say we do the scene once and we're like, I have an idea. Let's do it this way. And it just keeps getting better and better. When you're by yourself, you don't know how they're gonna read that response. So you just kind of have to guess.
And then I know because then you like you just said too in a way that you kind of have to like imagine the other
Right.
voices in your head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Yeah. Like if I was arguing with a sibling and
yeah.
she said, will you stop that right now? And I could be like, no. And I could mimic her rhythm and be like, I don't want to, bah. There's some playfulness that we could bring if we were listening to how the other person was saying the line.
Interesting. Yeah. And I know you're from Vancouver too, but you lived also in LA. Do you prefer
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver over LA or like what kind of for you your personal preference?
There's different things about, I mean, you've been to LA?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big city, which I don't love. I don't love the traffic. Traffic was hard for me to get used to.
Mhm.
Sometimes driving an hour and 15 minutes to work every day, whereas in Vancouver, I can walk 10 minutes to work. So that's a huge difference. I'm not a rain person, and growing up in Vancouver, the rain got to me. It can get a bit depressing day after day after day. Sunshine always helps. I kind of just like, I like both. I just prefer sunshine a bit more than rain. But the air here is better in Vancouver. When I moved to LA, I couldn't believe my skin. It changed. I was getting pimples and it was getting really dry and dehydrated, and it was just the heat and the pollution. And then I moved back to Vancouver for a few months. I remember I was filming something and I was like, oh my gosh, my skin cleared up. Like there's definitely a clean factor about Vancouver, which is lovely. I hike the forest with my dog pretty much every day, and it's so lush and it's green. It's amazing. It's magical, and you don't really have that in LA. This green, lush forest.
That's true. You have like the palm trees that were like brought in, I
Oh,
have learned.
they're
Like
amazing. But you have beautiful forests in New York, don't you?
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Upstate, but yeah.
Oh, it's my dream to drive through New York. I'd love to see, those beach towns. I mean, it doesn't need to be the Hamptons. I know it's expensive, but just some small beach towns I'd love to explore. I'd love
Yes.
to explore the East Coast. I want to see Connecticut. I want to see Cape Cod. It sounds magical.
Cape Cod's really nice. Cape May is really nice too. Yeah. I don't see traveling, it's like
I miss it. Where will you go when you first are allowed to travel?
that's a good question. I didn't think of that. Possibly the West Coast again, most
Yeah.
likely, to be honest. Yeah. But
I don't
I don't
know. I
know.
think I want to see the East Coast. I've never
Yeah.
been. I mean, I've been to New York, but that doesn't count. Like I want to see the coast.
Nice. It's nice, honestly, like in the summer, but also in the fall too, if you want to see like nice
Oh
colors.
yeah, I love the fall. Fall here in Vancouver is stunning. The colors, oh, spring and fall here are magical. It's
Oh,
just
nice.
winter here, rains all day, every day. Oh, it's
Oh,
hard.
yeah. Cold then
Yeah,
too.
it's you're always wet in Vancouver.
Because that
Um,
like LA, it's sunny, like you said, like right?
every day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's so weird. Like it's just
It
so
is weird. I mean, when it rains there, it's like an
weird.
apocalypse. People just think the world is going to shut down. It's crazy.
The other thing too, honestly, to worry about earthquakes, like everything has its like
Yeah, I lived through a few when I was there. Nothing like where, it was going to change my life. But I remember being in bed one morning at like 5 in the morning and the whole bed and the room shaking. And I was like, what the?
oh my
Because I
God,
had never experienced an earthquake.
that's so scary to think about. Oh my God.
It was scary. And it lasted for like a good 30 seconds and then it stopped. And then there was like an aftershock. And you're like, what?
Like
It's coming
oh my God.
back. Oh,
Oh,
it's
shit.
scary.
And I know obviously there's a lot of voice actors in Vancouver. So are you all kind of like you all kind of are like your own niche, you know what I mean? Like family, like you all know each other.
Oh yeah, it's very close here because again, it's just so small. I mean, it's not small Vancouver, but it's so much smaller than LA or New York. So yes, we all pretty much know everybody. We're all good friends. It doesn't mean we're hanging out with each other 24/7, but there's the love and respect for each other for sure, for sure. But now that with COVID, we really haven't seen anybody in a year and a half because you're excuse me, I'm drinking sparkling water, so it's like I haven't seen anybody.
Besides like a
Weird.
computer, like with
Yes, there
Zoom,
you go.
right? That's
There
not
you
the
go.
same, of course, but
Yeah, this is I mean, I haven't been a huge fan of Zoom. It's been fantastic that we've been able to do stuff like this,
mm,
but I don't know. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna the world's gonna be like when we get to interact with everybody, we're not gonna know what to do.
I don't know if you saw like there's this commercial for Extra, and it's like as if like the apocalypse ended and people are like running out of the hat like their apartments and stuff. It's like really funny. It's
Oh, that's funny.
that's like what they're making fun. It's like, oh, we're going back to, it's and like Celine Dion
Well, it was weird to see.
playing.
My husband watches a lot of sports, and so it was weird to see like people are back in the arenas in the United States in the basketball
Yeah.
and hockey. I think I was just shocked because we're not there yet in Canada. My gosh.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing too. It's different in each state. Like in New York now, like they lifted basically like the CDC. Basically, don't have to wear a mask if you've been vaccinated. Rather,
Oh, that's awesome.
thing is though, it's like people are just gonna be like people who aren't vaccinated are gonna be like, yeah,
I think
no,
so.
yeah,
So tell me something. You don't have to wear a mask inside if you've been vaccinated?
correct, yeah.
Oh, wow. We're not there yet. We don't have to wear a mask outside, and we've never had to, but we have to wear a mask inside regardless of you're vaccinated or not.
Okay,
But
yeah.
like you said, how do you know if people are vaccinated?
That's why personally I'm vaccinated, but I'm still for the most part wearing a mask. Like I'm just kind of playing it
Yeah,
safe about it because God forbid, like
God forbid. And you know what? A lot of people I think are going to continue to wear masks because they say they haven't had a cold in a year and a half and they're loving it. What they said when they go to the grocery store from now on, they're still going to wear a mask.
because I know they said like flu was down too, like so like the regular flu, not and
It's
like
so true.
yeah, there's all like these variations now of COVID too. So like it's like oh my
I know. I think nobody really knows. Let's be honest.
God.
We're all just kind of ready for things to go back, but then a part of us is not. We're scared.
Well, we're not fully out of the woods yet. We're just not. So
Yeah, who knew? Who knew? Nobody knew.
that's crazy.
Nobody
But
knew.
I know like when everything first was shutting down last like March 2020, that voiceover real like animation was like the one thing that kind of kept going, right? Because you all were able to just transfer to working from home.
They figured it out. Yeah,
Yeah,
they figured it out where they can work from home. And a lot of voice actors who didn't have home studios were like, okay, I guess we have to put out the money to get, good quality stuff. The majority do, but there's some actors that just, don't have anything too fancy. But I think a lot of us had to get on our game and be like, okay, if we're recording from home, we better get good stuff. Can't just be like recording your stuff on iPhone. How's that?
oh yeah, it's true. So, in general, do you have, I guess I've sort of asked this already, but do you have like a personal favorite role that you're maybe most like proud of, or just kind of all of them?
That's another tough question. I'm hard at giving myself compliments.
Well, maybe
I mean, I definitely think I am proud of myself regardless of what role it was, just for, giving myself authentically to, to the viewers.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of one where I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I mean, About a Girl was exhausting for me because I was the lead, and six days a week I was in every scene every single day, and that's something I'm super proud of, because as a lead actor, you don't really get how much weight is on your shoulders until you become a lead actor, and then you're like, oh, this is why I hate the media, or you know people on social media who say cruel comments to actors, because I don't think they realize how much work and love and sweat goes into being a lead actor on a show, on a movie. It's exhausting. And so, I used to, it's funny, About a Girl came out just as Facebook was exploding, and so people were saying horrible things about me on there and saying they hated my voice, or I don't know, it was annoying, and I had to just stop and get off of it completely because it was affecting me. So
Wow.
if there's anything I can say to people out there when they want to say something kind of cruel to an actor, just to say, don't say anything at all. If you don't have anything nice, as our parents always say, don't say anything at all, because it's tough being a lead actor. You have a lot of weight on you. You're carrying the show, and you're setting the bar for other actors of what you want, how you want them to act on set, and their professionalism. Like, I think I did a very good job. A very good job. Sorry, that's my mom. I'll call her back. Sorry,
Yeah.
mom.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I'm proud of myself. I gave it my all. I had so many lines every day. And that's the thing about on cameras, you've got to be on your game. You've got to learn your lines. Hamtaro, I had so many lines, but I didn't need to memorize them. My script was right in front of me. So I'm proud of myself that I carried a show, and I always came with, integrity and a hard work ethic. Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
I'm sorry that you had to like deal with that. Like, it's like that's terrible in general. Like bullying, like come on, people,
It's
be better,
awful. Bullying is
honestly.
terrible, isn't it?
And
Yeah,
that's
no.
kind of like when you look at social media nowadays, like there's the good and the bad of it. It's good that you can interact with people, of course, but then it's bad that like with the instant whatever gratification, like the
Oh,
instant like you know what I mean?
people will say anything, anything. It's so
Yeah.
sad.
Uh-huh.
I wish there was a way that social media could censor any kind of comment that wasn't nice, but I don't know. I don't think that's possible.
I
And that's the thing, like, people are entitled to their opinion, and we don't want to take away anybody's freedom of speech, but when it comes with, a malicious tone for no reason, it's sad. It's
it's
super
so true.
sad.
I know that's why like more positivity, more like being good to one another, like especially thank goodness, like even with how horrible with this pandemic, that there have been so many good, kind-hearted
So
people.
many good
Like,
things that
thank
have
God.
come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a lot of great things to come from it, and obviously some heartbreaking, devastating things to come out from this. But it's nice when you hear these really lovely stories of people coming together, giving back, helping each other in the community. For sure, for sure.
Absolutely. That's so important too. My last question for you really is just if you have any advice for aspiring actors, whether on camera, voiceover.
Well, I said it already, take class, because
Mm.
you cannot expect, and I'm not trying to be mean, expect that just because you have a really neat voice or you do a couple impersonations that you're going to become a working actor. There's there's a technique for voice work, and I'm going to say this a few more times. There's a technique in voice work that you need to be taught. It needs to be taught, or it needs to at least be shown to you how it is to be behind the mic. So classes are fantastic, and now with, as we said, Zoom, you can do I could take a class from New York. You can take a class from somebody who's teaching in Vancouver. It's fabulous. Take class, watch actors, like, see how what they bring to a scene. Like, for me, with voice work, when I'm trying to work on my voices, sometimes I'll be like, I like this little boy voice, but there's something else that I could add, or I could change. I'll listen to like real kids on the street, and I'll listen to them talking, because a real kid pronounces their words a little bit differently than an adult does. You know what I'm trying to say? They're not so enunciated. They draw their words together a bit more. So sometimes when I sit and I actually listen to a real kid, I'm like, ah, that's what I've been doing. I've been over enunciating or speaking too quickly, or emphasizing this word wrong. So for voice acting, I would say listen to real kids authentically, or accents, and work on that. But the only way you're going to really truly learn to see if you even like something is if you take a class. People say, I want to be a voice actor, but how do you really know you want to be a voice actor until you're behind the mic and you're in a scene?
That's true. And that's, as you said, like you get the authenticity by kind of just observing people and trying. Yeah.
Totally.
Mhm.
Trying. And that's the beauty, is like in class it's a safe place to try. I may fall on my face and not nail it, but that's what class is for. It's for stumbling and then picking yourself up and go, okay, well, here's what I didn't do and this is what I can learn from it. Or when you're at home and you hear a fantastic real kid's voice on the TV, pause it, listen to it, and go, oh, let's see if I can work on this, and do it in the safe space of the comfort of your home. But a
And now,
teacher who knows what they're doing. Don't take a class from somebody who's a wannabe voice actor. Take a class from somebody that's actually been working in the industry, and they'll give you safe, loving, encouraging homework and notes to for you to take and then build from that.
there are some voice actors who teach. I know, I think Richard Horvitz, like a bunch, I'm sure, but yeah, it's just one.
There are a ton. People always ask me, do I teach? And I've thought about it for sure. I haven't got into it yet. But I have a lot of friends here in Vancouver who teach, and they're working actors who teach. And that's what you want to take a class from, not from somebody who's never done a cartoon in their life.
And then, of course, and when you're in the business too, I think a good word of advice, like as you've alluded to too, is to not get discouraged. Just keep
Yes.
yeah,
My best friend says this saying, and I don't have it off by heart, so I don't remember it, but she's basically says you're going to get way more no's than yeses. You just are. You just are. And it's up to you to say it's okay. It's not that I was, a poor actor, I didn't do a very good job. It's just not what they were looking for on the day, and on to the next one. And with each audition, for me anyways, the more keep myself in the game and the more I audition, I feel like I keep my muscles, just like you were working out. If you stop working out, you're going to get sloppy, soft muscles. For me as an actor, if I continue to audition, I keep my muscles strengthened, whether it's memorizing lines or keeping my pace up in a scene, or the rhythm, the energy. As the more I'm auditioning, the more I'm in my best shape. That's the way I'm trying to put it for you, is like,
mhm.
think about it as exercising. If I stop auditioning and I'm like, well, I'm going to get discouraged and I'm sad, so I'm just not going to audition for a while, I'm going to take myself out of the rhythm, and I don't want that.
Right. So like keep the momentum going. Definitely.
Yeah, like, I find, like, with COVID, there wasn't many auditions for on camera in the beginning. And my first on camera audition back, I couldn't remember my lines. I was like, "What's going on? You suck." And I had to just give myself a bit of a pat on the back and say, "You don't suck. Your muscle memory took a little bit of a break, and you just got to build it back up again."
Right. So like what you said too, like self-love, self-care. So that's always important
And it's
too.
hard to do. It really is. I struggle with this all the time, but
Me
at the end
too.
of the day, if we're not going to be kind to ourselves, why would anybody else want to be kind? And I know for me, I'm one of the most loving people with my friends and my family. Like, all I do is continually remind them how much they're loved and how special they are. So why don't I do that for myself?
Hmm.
When I'm having a bad day and I say something poor about myself, it's like, I would never say that about my best friend, or my husband, or my mom. So let's try and speak with loving, encouraging words to myself the way I do to my loved ones.
That's beautiful words of advice. Oh my goodness, that's
It's
wonderful.
hard to do. It's
It's
very
true.
hard to do.
Absolutely.
we've got to build ourselves up because there's too many people out in this world that are going to try and knock us down. So we have to build ourselves up no matter what. No matter how many times I'm told no, I didn't get the job, I have to remind myself I'm special, I'm unique, and it's just not this job. It's going to be another one.
Keep on going to everyone out there. Yes.
And this is I'll end it with this.
Mm.
If you're not having fun, whether it's auditioning, taking the classes, working on set, if you're not having fun, that means you should not be doing this. So that's
Mm.
why I say take class, because you think you want to be a voice actor, and then you might take a class and be like, I hated it. Like, I think I want to be, I'm just making this up, I want to be a tennis instructor. Well, how do I know I want to be a tennis instructor unless I put myself in the game and try? So take a class, see if you love it. If I'm not having fun auditioning anymore, then I know it's my inner wisdom, my inner angels telling me you don't need to do this anymore. That's what my mother always said when you were a kid, because I was so busy. She's like, if you're not having fun at this, we don't need to do this. I was like, no, I'm having the time of my life. So yes, rejection sucks. It hurts. It hurts so much. But if I'm still having fun in my auditions and I still feel like that light inside me is lit, then I know I can't quit.
Yes, very true. It's been so wonderful chatting with you, Chiara.
Yes, I hope I helped.
Absolutely. I know we were kind of saying bad stuff about it earlier, but if you want to share where people can find you on social media and anything else you want to promote.
Oh, well, you definitely can find me on Instagram,
Okay.
Twitter, not Facebook. I don't use Facebook. I think I always see horrible things on Facebook. So I'm like, I'm not using this thing anymore.
Mm.
But definitely there. And a lot of the times when you get jobs right now, you can't really talk about them. So I can't really talk about anything, but I'll just say anytime I'm allowed to, I will. And if you reach out to me asking how to get into voice work, I can't respond to every single person. I wish I could, but I will say again and again, take class, take class, take class. And if you're not having fun, then it's okay. Voice acting is not for you. There's something else.
That's true. There's always something else. Yeah. To
Always. You've got to find what makes you happy when you wake up in the morning. What lights your, like, your heart up and just says, I'm happy. And so for me, it's always been performing. So I know it, even regardless of the rejection. But if I wake up one day and I'm like, I'm tired of the rejection, I'm not having fun, and I want to quit, then I will. But for now, I definitely want to keep going at it despite how hard it is. How's that?
And with that, that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. Be sure to visit storytellingsaga.com for all places to listen and where to follow on social media, and feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, and for all of June, I'm going to be discussing a different episode from a different TV show that I've yet to discuss on this podcast. So to kick it off, I'm going to be discussing one of my personal favorite episodes of Parks and Recreation, the season 4 finale, Win, Lose, or Draw. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.